Well, today, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in Israel to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And this comes as his government faces global pressure to do more to protect civilians in Gaza. Yesterday, President Biden met with family members of Americans taken hostage by Hamas. The families said they are confident the administration is doing what it can. In Gaza, the IDF says its troops have been engaged in close quarters combat in the northern part of the enclave, killing a number of Hamas operatives. Meanwhile, in the south, the military says that it conducted targeted raids in Khan Yunis, destroying tunnel shafts and a weapons storage facility. So for more on all of this, let's bring in Ramy Inocencio. He's following the latest from Tel Aviv. Ramy, it's great to see you. What can we expect now from Sullivan's meeting with officials in Israel today, especially as tensions are rising between the U.S. and Israel over Netanyahu's handling of the war? As you already know, President Biden has been critical lately of Netanyahu's continued approach to the war.
Absolutely, Henry. Yeah, good to see you. And the phrase that I think comes to mind for all of us ever since Tuesday when President Biden spoke it is the phrase indiscriminate bombing. The criticism coming out and that daylight basically being exposed between Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Biden. But Mr. Sullivan's priority here is basically to be that in-person messenger to hammer the message home that Netanyahu and the Israeli war cabinet needs to change tack, needs to be more precise, more surgical in its operations into Gaza. We know that the numbers have been climbing so quickly. 18,000 people dead in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, about 50,000 or more wounded, maybe many more thousands under the rubble. In addition, there is the second priority that Mr. Sullivan is going to try to do. You mentioned that meeting that Mr. Biden had with those family members of American hostages. There are 8 American hostages still believed to be in Gaza. The priority there, of course, is to bring them home.
And Ramy, Jake Sullivan met with the Saudi Crown Prince yesterday. What can you tell us about that and the discussions that were had there?
Sure. The Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia has been seen and continues to be seen as very integral to maintaining or really reestablishing peace in this region. We got to remember, too, that prior to the October 7th attacks, Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, was on a path to normalization with Israel, which would have been a major development. Some say that Hamas potentially launched its own terror attacks to try to derail that. But in terms of what they've been talking about, a little bit scarce on the detail, but in a White House statement, they said that they talked about efforts to create new conditions for an enduring and sustainable peace and the humanitarian response in Gaza.
Now, in regards to the hostages, I was under the impression that there were some sort of negotiations that had been going on all along behind the scenes. But now we're getting reports that a trip by Israel's foreign intelligence head to Qatar to restart these talks on a possible, second hostage release, that has been canceled. What is going on?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Mossad chief, David Barnea, actually offered himself to travel to Qatar in order to start this second round of hostage negotiations. But it's the Israeli war cabinet that basically declined his offer. Now, Israeli media is saying that the reason for this is that they don't think that the Hamas leadership in Gaza, which of course is separate from the Hamas leadership in Qatar, are actually able to communicate during this war. We ourselves have heard that because of the war, it's taken maybe a day or longer for messages to get across because of communications blackouts. There's also the belief that perhaps the Hamas leadership is not actually ready to talk about these hostage negotiations. With that said, the Politburo chief for Hamas, based in Qatar, Ismail Haniyeh, has said that they are open to a ceasefire resolution. Another Hamas leader has actually gone as far as to say that they're open to a two-state solution. The strange thing there, though, is that the mission or the charter of Hamas actually says specifically that they want to annihilate Israel. So it's not sure, actually, if he's speaking out of his own personal belief or if it's something that might be a change that Hamas is trying to convey.
Ramy Inocencio live for us from Tel Aviv. Ramy, thank you as always. We appreciate it.